and thank you for joining us today. Most of you are probably aware from experience that way too often when testing happens too late, the development cycle, unfortunately, the critical bugs can surface, which will allow, say, costs to spiral and delay the overall project. So, with regards to this particular webinar, we are going to cover a series as part of this session, what shift left really means, the key benefits, for utilizing it, common pitfalls, practical steps, how it fits into the standard agile process, along with some metrics. So, without further ado, joining me today are two experts who put these practices into action. Aarti Tewari, QA lead at Virtuo, who has over a decade of experience in QA process and setup, agile delivery, and customer-focused quality improvements. And Michael Tomara, a QA lead at TestFort, who stands by the principles of integrating QA earlier in the software development lifecycle to improve release stability and team collaboration. So, I'm Bruce Mason, and I will be moderating today's discussion. Let's kick things off with the first topic. So, what is the shift left approach and why is it so popular today? Aarti, maybe you could start us off on this one, please.
Sure. Well, hello everyone, and thank you for having me here. Well, before getting to shift left, I think I'll try to mention what traditional testing is, because even if there's a lot of people moving to shift left, I think there's still a lot of companies who are still considering testing as the last phase to be done, which also means that a lot of critical defects, they happen to go to production. And the cost of fixing such defects is very huge, and it also brings a negative, customer experience when it talks about that. So, we definitely need a solution, and that's where basically shift left approach kicks in. So what shift left means, you can, from the name, you can suggest that we are going to move things on the left. So it means that basically the QAs are going to be involved right from the requirement stage. Then they can go to design as well if need be, and finally to the development stage. So if you think about it, the further left we will shift, the quicker defects we will find, and the cost of fixing them will be lower and lower because the code is going to be super fresh in the developer's mind. So they don't have to really, trace a lot of things back, and it's going to fix on a faster pace. So yeah, shifting left is, introducing the quality perspective in each of the phases of the development.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Michael, have you got anything you'd like to add as part of that for our audience?
Yes, actually, I'd like just to mention that many teams probably could find it difficult to integrate testing from the very beginning, since it might require to rebuild the process and to prepare the conditions, the deliverables for testers to work with. So it probably that's what may hinder this adoption. But I guess we'll talk about that later.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so why use shift left? Why should organizations care about shifting left as an approach? Michael, maybe you could start off on this one for us, please.
Sure. So shifting left means shifting to an earlier stage, because traditionally when we draw the timeline of a project, we go from left, which is the beginning, to the right, which are the later phases. Yeah. So shifting left just means we start testing earlier, and as Aarti mentioned, as early as possible from the stage when the requirements are ready, and they can be tested already when the designs are ready, and they already can be tested, verified, some inconsistencies can be found there. So that's what a shift left is about. It is rebuilding your QA, quality assurance process, so that QA professionals, QA team could start from the earlier stages and Again, as was said earlier, it could help find problems and solve them at earlier stages, and spend less effort, less time to get rid of them.
Okay. Aarti, anything else you'd like to add there, please?
Yeah, I mean, I can name a few advantages, I would say.
That would be good. Yeah.
The first one I think is cost saving, because
Okay.
when a critical bug is missed during the testing phase and it reaches the client, it could be 10 to maybe 100 times more expensive to fix it.
Yes.
Because it takes time from the sprint that you're working on for the next feature, and the business doesn't like it because the competition is quite tough outside. The second one is the speed, because with shift left we are in continuous improvement cycle, continuously finding defects or let's say deviation from the actual requirements. It's easy to, let's say, put things on prod. It's easier to deliver quicker on prod. And the third and the most important, I think, is the collaboration. So with shift left, people a lot of time think that it's only about testing. It's only about automating test earlier in the phase. But actually, before all of that, what is more important is collaboration, because the QAs are now collaborating with product owners, with designers. Of course, it can be in a different setup if it's a consulting company like BAs and SMEs and stuff. But I think it really helps, to collaborate well and driving towards one common goal, which is delivering a quality product to our end users. So this leads to better understanding of requirements, better coverage, I would say, and hence a better quality product, which the customer really appreciates.
Okay. With regards to this particular, as say, approach, obviously it allows for more automation of QA as earlier within the corresponding process. But isn't there a fine line on this of adding QA automation early? For example, if you automate lots of areas within a corresponding feature that are going to change as the product evolves, then won't it become a maintenance overhead?
Definitely. I think it's a brilliant question, because whenever you say shift left, I think 99% of people start thinking that we need to have automation on place. But I think, when I say that shift left is important and it encourages automation, I would say that shift left doesn't mean that you have to automate from day one. As I said, it's collaboration. It's more like a process. It's a step-by-step thing, right? So you can't really jump into automating everything that you want to test. So for me, shift left doesn't mean that you have to automate from day one. And I would say that smart teams really take good calls. They try to focus the automation on, high-risk areas. I would say core functionalities, the APIs, which don't change every day. Because if we start changing that, I don't think so we'll ever be able to deliver anything on time. And such smart teams also try their hands off from automating when, a feature involves a very huge dependency on UI elements, for example, because we know that they tend to change. So in my opinion, it's very important to follow, test pyramids, which primarily focuses on more unit and integration or API tests, which actually are the base of a stable product. And then slowly, moving on the top to end-to-end test, but only for the critical flows. Other thing that I want to highlight is also, we should also think that shift left is not equal to automation all the time. It also means, active participation of QA for understanding the requirement, asking the right questions, and skipping, the notion of, forgetting about errors or unexpected behaviors and, issues like that, which create a negative experience in customers. So yeah.
Okay. All right. And just from my side, just an addendum on that. Obviously, as we all collectively know, as I say, software professionals, it's never advisable to automate absolutely everything anyway, because it's not cost effective to do so. And as such, each organization should look at what is best for them. So alongside the timing, obviously, it needs to be controlled as well with regards to what, as to return on investment and value for the organization.
Definitely.
At this point, just a brief one I forgot to mention at the beginning. I apologize. For our viewers that are watching this webinar, if you've got any corresponding questions, please write them down in the corresponding comment section. And then at the end of this session, we will ask, as say, our people here, as say, those questions. If we don't have time for all of those, then we will follow up with every single question that is asked when we post the video online. Okay, so please, as I ask your questions away, and we will cover off as many as we can as part of this session. So on that basis, let's move on. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about what shift left is. So what is a good way to start adopting shift left into a company's organization and culture? Aarti, perhaps you could kick us off on this one again, please.
Sure. Well, shift left for me, it's not just a slogan that is used very often, but to me, if you want to implement it, it really needs a strategic approach across process, tooling, and culture. So when I talk about, I'll be speaking about all three of them individually. So let's start with process. For me, it starts with, involving QA in story requirement or, requirement reviews, for example, writing tests before or during the coding phase. We can think of TDD and BDD here. Then also starting to design the test cases during sprint planning, because when we start doing that, that means that we are also asking ourselves a lot of questions. So that could really, raise focus on the areas that have been missed, when we were writing down the requirements. Moving on to the second one, which is tooling. Normally, as I said in my previous statement, that we should be following test pyramid, which automatically focuses more on unit and integration tests. I think that setting up unit test coverage with frameworks like JUnit and NUnit is really beneficial. And if we go by the test pyramid principle, 70% of the test should be coming from this layer. Also, using static code analysis tools like SonarQube can really help raise issues at the time when the developer is committing, which is already quite early to find issues and fix them. And, automate early stages tests, which is again, unit test and integration test, API test in the CI/CD pipelines, which are giving you feedbacks like in, couple of minutes to maybe 30 minutes is also a good practice to do. And the third one, the culture, I think that is, again, the most important one. Nothing to do with the technicalities and stuff, but it's more a human approach. So we have to encourage the dev and QA pairing because, as Michael said, sometimes team find it very difficult to implement shift left because they are missing the tech skills which are needed for automation or for using certain tools in the pipeline. So I think encouraging the dev and QA pairing is a must. Fostering shared quality ownership is something that naturally comes when it's shift left because we all are into the same boat, going towards the same destination, right? So there's no difference in priorities. And then celebrating early bug detection and not only bug fixes. I think this is something which is missing by a lot of people. Everybody is very happy about we fixed that, but nobody is really, celebrating that we have reduced the detection by 10 times on the left instead of on the right. So yeah, that's my take on that.
I think that last part comes down to the collaboration with obviously the devs. The devs should be obviously thanking the testers for finding it early rather than obviously in live because no one wants to find it there. So yeah. I agree with that. One quick point on mine before I bring Michael in, as I say, when you talk about involving the QAs in story refinement, Do you mean as part of the grooming process, or when the SMEs and the POs are working with the BA and designers as part of requirement solicitation?
Well, for me, when I say that QA should be part of, and story refinement, I don't mean pulling everybody in every meeting, because
Yeah.
that is definitely going to hinder the progress and maybe no good result at the end. But for me, it's more about timing and value, because
Okay.
for most of the stories which are not complex, the QAs can directly jump into QA refinement, where they will still be asking probing questions, which could be a miss as well. But I believe when we are dealing with very highly impacting features, or the topics which are already, let's say, available to users, so they are habitual of using that, but you are going to revamp it from start to end, so those could have very negative impact as well, unless we are thinking aloud that it's really fitting what we are wanting. So for me, in those kind of cases, the QAs should be involved at the very start, so that
Okay.
they can also influence the scope. They can challenge whether the acceptance criteria are matching with the real world scenarios.
Yeah.
They can highlight any dependency. They can also ask for if this particular feature is going to create a lot of regression, and so those kinds of point is something that QAs can definitely brought in. If time allows, I can, because it's a practical thing that I applied at Virtuo. So what I did is I created two more steps before a story goes to refinement, from the time that it is ready from the product owner, which was tech analysis and QA review. So as soon as the product owners were ready with the acceptance criteria and explanation of business requirements, it was the developer, the tech lead of the feature team, who was taking a look and ensuring that it is reachable in terms of technicalities. And then it was the QA who were also reviewing, and they were asking those big, probing, disturbing questions. If they are found at a very later stage, they could really roll back everything. You'll have to stop and rework everything. So this really helped my team, to raise questions, right questions at right time, save a lot of effort that we had to put in, and minimize the rework to almost zero. And then during the testing phase, if we were still finding defects, we also started implementing a strategy of tagging defects. So we were not just raising the defect in the system and getting it fixed. We were tagging each and every defect, that why did we miss it? Was it during the design phase? Was it during when the QA was writing it? Or is it due to a requirement which was never mentioned? In that case, it can't be a defect. It has to be a new feature. So, all those things really helped us mitigate the issues which we were having before we implemented shift left.
And that way you can learn from the process as well and evolve it as you
Yeah,
go.
definitely.
Okay. Okay, Michael, anything to add to this topic? Sorry, we're having some dialogue there as they're going backwards and forwards as part of the process. So let's bring you in and I get your thoughts as well.
Yeah, I'd actually like to talk a little bit more about the culture in the aspect of reaching the common ground from the beginning, that the testing, the evaluation from the QA side should actually start from the beginning. It really requires everyone's commitment and consent that this is necessary, that the work of the entire team should be aligned to this process, so that it would be fruitful, so that QAs would really get something to test, that is proper documentation with detailed requirements and acceptance criteria for stories as well. Unfortunately, sometimes teams may skip a bit on the documentation. Many things can be just discussed in meetings, and it might be a problem to implement shift left approach in these circumstances. So proper documentation is really important for this adoption, so that it would work smoothly, that QAs would really have materials, that is at the beginning, the documentation to check, to verify, to discuss in detail, not just talk about it, but see their descriptions and work with them and collaborate with the rest of the team to reach optimal requirements, designs, etc.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much. As a Michael, one additional question I've just thought of now. Shift left obviously has value for large or medium-based organizations. What about smaller organizations? I'm assuming maybe a subset of that where they could evolve over time is maybe a good idea for them if they wanted to try and bring this in maybe from scratch, like a startup or something. Aarti, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, so for me, I come from a startup
Oh,
because
okay.
I mean, at the start, I was working with a bigger company, but later on, since I moved to France, I'm only working with startups. So I
Okay.
think the idea is to, start small,
Mhm.
because the first misconception that people have is that if we apply shift left, that means that we are going to do developers' job. That's not true. That's not at all true. It's all about collaboration and not replacement. So for me, when we have to apply shift left for small organization, I think the first thing to keep in mind is to influence the team, go through them, make them understand that what are the benefits on a bigger run, and then trying to apply shift left on a small feature or a small feature team if they have, where they can run a small POC, let's say, to find out the advantages, the disadvantages. And the third one I would say is always tracking the progress, because if we are not going to track it, it's going to be I mean, if we are going to tell to business that we are testing earlier, I'm pretty sure that they won't be convinced unless and until you really show the value that you are going to add, not only on the technicalities or the achievements or the sprint velocity or the goals, but also to a bigger business perspective. It's not, you won't be able to buy in. Then I would also suggest, because with small startups, sometimes you don't have that many resources who are specialized in automation, let's say. So it's really I'm talking from experience that you don't really need to be a pro in automation if you want to apply shift left. What, as I've been already advocating about, that it's all about starting small. It's all about putting small processes in place piece by piece, and then pairing with the developers to learn the tool, to write unit tests together, maybe, or just write the tests on your test management tool and share it and discuss with the developers, so they are able to include them in the integration test or in the end-to-end if they are the ones writing it. So yeah, for me, that is the key.
Brilliant. Okay, good suggestion. Thank you very much there. Okay. In looking then, as I say, the benefits. So let's look at the adverse elements. So what stops teams from adopting shift left approach in their QA processes? So Michael, maybe you would like to start on this one for us, please.
Sure. So I think first of all, it may be when the team is not ready or is opposing the changes of the process. It may be just sticking to the traditional format of development, or just if the team isn't ready to change the processes, to change the way things are documented, requirements, etc., and not ready to work with the QAs in a new way, in a more closer collaboration to provide QAs with some deliverables to test and get comments upon. So that's one thing. Of course, if adoption of a shift left in a certain team requires adopting new tools and new technologies, it may add to their reluctancy, because existing people in the team may not have time or capacity to learn new tools, and they're not ready to work with new tools. So we can say it's maybe a skill issue or just a general issue with the processes, with getting time for learning tools, etc. So this may hinder the adoption as well. The change in processes when adoption of a new approach is on may result in temporary lower productivity. So in case the team starts collaborating in a new format with the QAs, it may hinder the actual work on the development during a certain period of time. And seeing this decline or anticipating this decline may make the management say no to this, for example. So.
Okay, understand. That happens on, let's say, projects in general, where new teams start up. You get that storming and norming until they come together and collaborate better. Aarti, any additional points you'd like to add as part of this? Yeah.
I think, definitely, I mean, I agree with Michael said, but there is always a resistance to change. I mean, it's a human behavior. Let's accept that. We don't want to change how we are habitually, how we are habitual to do things. So it's something that comes by nature. But then just to add, I think applying shift left should not mean that we should stop shifting right as well. Because, monitoring production issues as well and how our feature who we have just rolled out is behaving. So monitoring production environments is also a key for a successful, delivery improvements. So for just giving you an example, because I have been involved into also setting up production support for the previous companies that I have worked with. And I think I have learned a lot from the shifting right, because it also gives you a picture that what you need to improve when you are applying the approach of shift left. The issues that even though that there was a shift left in place, there were issues that were not caught. We got to understand that it was due to the test environment or the test data that we were using. Then sometimes it also forced us to think deeper, when we are changing a feature which is not new, but it already has an impact on the existing customers which are already using the service. So those kinds of things we were not able to channelize when we were applying shift left as a newbie. So I would say that shifting right, it's an eye opener and is it is equally important to understand that there has to be a balance between the two. For me, other than that, the lack of training and all those things, they are not a no-go completely to, where the company should think that we can't apply shift left. I think it is something that we could invest in. As I said, only with collaboration, by sitting with the developer, there's a lot of things that, we could learn. In my organization, I helped my QAs to train alongside the developers. So we were having on every Wednesday a session of 30 minutes with a lead developer who was upskilling them to use Git, for example, so they are able to understand how things are working. So I think with the collaboration between devs and QAs, these kinds of small barriers in terms of technicalities, they could be easily mitigated. So yeah.
Thank you. So good information there for our audience as well. Okay, all right. On that premise, then let's look at the next one. Then saying, so in this day and age, obviously, it's been said that traditional testing is sometimes an afterthought in the software development lifecycle process, but this pertains predominantly to old style approaches like waterfall, which still have some benefits for companies or institutions. However, approaches like Agile have been around for many years now, like Scrum and Kanban, and already adopt early management of testing teams. As such, what makes Shift Left different from Scrum or Kanban approaches, and how does it extend them to provide or add value for clients and customers? So, Aarti, perhaps you'd like to talk about this.
Sure. I mean, Scrum and Kanban, you're right. I mean, they do have testing, and they try to introduce testing testers, I would say QAs, earlier than traditional workflow. But we have to understand that shift left is it goes further than agile, or the processes that we have in agile. The reason is that with shift left, what we try to do is we try to put a quality label at every stage of agile. Whereas if you look by agile in the Scrum and Kanban, they do include testers, but in the rituals. When we talk about early involvement of tester, it's mostly in the rituals. There's no deepened or proven approach or process that the testers are also equally participating in the activities. But with shift left, that's not the case, because they are right there from the requirement stage. So for me, it makes quality a part of every stage, from requirement to deployment, with automation, the early stage automation, and faster feedback from CI/CD tools baked into the process already. So you are not really, you don't have an extra step. It is coming as a byproduct of implementing the shift left. So for me, this is how we can move from just delivering a feature to delivering something really reliable and highly trustable to the customers. So for me, the key difference is that Agile framework focuses on process, where it has cross-functional teams. It also focuses on incremental deliveries. But when we talk about shift left, it is more of a mindset and technical practice extension that we add on to the Agile processes that we already have.
Okay, all right. Michael, anything you'd like to add as part of that from Aarti there?
Yes, I fully agree with what Aarti said, and I just maybe I'd like to talk again about documentation, its importance of requirements being fully documented, and acceptance criteria and definitions of downfall stories. This is important precondition to really shift the testing, the quality assurance process left. And from my experience with agile teams, it is often there is often some field for work with that to improve the situation with documentation, so that QAs could start working on stories even earlier. And what agile process could benefit from shift left is again the quality, the collaboration with the developers, the fruitful collaboration with eventually decreasing the work, and faster and easier releases.
Also fewer escape defects, because we are trying to find defects right from the requirement stage. We are not really waiting for the developer to put the code on the feature environment to start testing. So we have fewer escape defects, faster delivery, lower cost, because we are fixing them during the SDLC and not in production. Better user experience, because the quality is definitely going to be the best, and the trust and confidence that we are going to build in the eyes of our customers. So yeah, I think agile plus shift left is a good combination for any company size, honestly.
Picking up on that last point, one small little additional question on my side, where you've got multiple Scrum teams that are obviously delivering different elements within a product or a program. You've obviously then got interdependencies between those corresponding Scrum teams. How does shift left work there? Because obviously that's additional process where you've got to obviously collaborate across teams to come together. Aarti, you want thoughts on that?
Sure. Sure. For me, definitely. I mean, this is the reality. Right now, I don't think so. There is, even in small or bigger institution, the product is divided into many, many small sections, and normally every, feature team is different who have their own set of POs, developers, and QAs. But of course, when we apply shift left, we have to go by the rules that the process should be the same for all the teams. And what you talked about, the dependency, I
Mhm.
completely agree that every team has its own pace. So they will be delivering step at their own time. But what matters here is, always trying to test on the feature environment before merging on staging environment, because normally staging environment is the place where all the code comes in before going to production. So I think, as long as you are not putting, untested, features on the staging, I think we should still be able to handle the quality, even though we are not working for the same product with the same team. And
Okay.
apart from that, I think, if we are having a API structure as a base, I think, defining a owner of an API is also a very good idea, because then the owner knows in the code review, if you assign a owner, a specific developer as a owner of that service, let's say, so they already know that what are the things which are coming from different teams. Plus, with the CI/CD tool at every commit of no matter what in the same service, you will always get to know what is going wrong. So we have a very good chance of, finding the errors, fixing them before it actually lands to staging.
Okay.
I
Interesting.
hope it answers the
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay. Let's move on to our last topic area. So, metrics to measure success are utilizing shift left. How do you measure success utilizing an approach like shift left? Michael, maybe let's start with you on this one.
Yeah, metrics are important in order to track the progress more precisely than just by general feeling if it went better or not. So it is useful to collect some statistics about how things are going on a project in order to see first if the testing process, test coverage, test execution results, if the testing has been more effective, if we adopt the shift left, and if the business goals are reached. So for that purpose, metrics like bug escape rate, like defects in requirements metric would be useful. Uh, this actually these metrics are always useful, I would say, for any project. So we would like to know what's the percentage of bugs that escape to the production that somehow bypass testing because some reasons. But together, if they are collected together, we can see that, for example, um, getting more bugs reported during the requirements analysis stage leads to less defects escape rate. And if it is so we can judge that the adoption brings some fruits. It is good. It helps. Other things like, for example, test coverage, which is again a common metric that is always useful, is good to collect it as well, and the pace of getting test coverage done, how fast it is created, can also signify that shift left works well. If we spend additional time, if we spend more time analyzing the requirements, QAs can get enough information for creating test coverage for respective features which these requirements cover, even before these features are developed and provided by the developers for testing. Um, Well, and such metrics as time to market, rework percentage, they evidently may show that whether it's becoming easier to provide to get new releases, and if and whether it is becoming less of additional work for developers to update, to fix bugs, to update features, and to prepare for such faster releases. So
Okay.
something like that.
Okay. Thank you very much for your input on that one. Aarti, any additional comments from your side?
Yep. I think shift left also influences reduction in cycle time. What it means as a matrix is basically time taken from the time that we get a feature to build until it is deployed. And I think it is one of the important metrics if we talk about the business, if we talk about the CEO who's waiting for the result, because time to market is really crucial for the competitive advantages that we have. And at Virtuo, I mean, we have had, because it's a car rental company, there were a lot of features which were introduced by others as well. So sometimes we were in a crunch time where we had to be at our best, absolutely our best. So this specific matrix, it was influenced by the shift left that we implemented. So, and the reason was that we had fewer reworks. We were able to find defects really quickly, as Michael explained. So, more and more questions were found in the requirement gathering stage itself. Then we had faster feedbacks because, all the early level stage tests were aligned with the CI/CD. So nobody had to wait for the QA to manually test it. And then we had an extra cover on top with the exploratory testing that our QAs were doing anyway to find the things that we may have missed in the previous sections. Yeah, and apart from that, I think the idea should be to have less and less P0s and P1s, because, and if we have, because I won't say as a QA, I will never say that it is impossible, to not have P0s or P1. There would be, but what our idea should be to always learn from the mistakes that we had. Always try to keep updating the process document that we have, keep updating the learnings that we have fetched from that, and start applying it on the new features that we are working on. And I think this is the best definition of collaboration, that instead of raising fingers, try to get the best out of even the worst situation, and then work together towards it. So yeah.
I completely agree with that. So I've worked on projects for many years. No two projects are the same, and learning from experience is extremely important. It's how you use that information. So
Yeah.
growing is important. So I completely agree with that feedback. Great, thank you very much. Okay, we've come to the end of that. From our speakers. What I'd like to do now is obviously open up to our audience. We have a few questions come through from our audience. Interestingly, we've also got some responses from our audience as well, giving feedback and suggestions on these corresponding questions. I won't go through all the feedback here because we are going to run out of time as part of that. However, I will suggest that we actually post that feedback alongside the corresponding questions online, as part of posting the video. That then gives access for all of that information to everybody, as part of this webinar. So let's touch on some of the questions. So how does the shift left approach cope with frequently changing requirements before the testing phase? I think we've all been there, specifically when we want to shift the test plan writing left. So Aarti, let's start with you, ladies first in this particular instance. What are your thoughts on this?
So, well, with Agile, it comes with flexibility. So it's not like a traditional waterfall where, you will always have a fixed CR document and you are only going to work with it. So it's something that we all are prepared mentally. And, we have to decide a level of changes until when it could be accepted. So, if you have a document ready and you have all put in your thoughts and, everything is already ready and we are about to add it to the sprint. And if every single thing is changing, then of course it's a no-go. You can't really plan the story it has to be reworked from scratch. But if there are minor changes, which first of all doesn't change the development points that
Mhm.
we normally put, because it's still a small thing that we can accommodate, that's good. If they are not going to change the complete tests, setup as well, I think it's something which is still doable. But then we have to understand that there are times where these things will happen, where you'll have to make a replan of what you have to do. So that time it's the QA, PO, and developer. I think it's a call that they all have to make together, whether to continue as is, of how we actually initially estimated the feature, or we try to create a new story to handle the changes which came on really later, then it was too late for us to accommodate it. So I think this could be easily achieved if we are going to speak with the stakeholders and try to explain them. So as long as the time breach is okay, we can involve the frequent changes. But if there are big change which is going to ask a lot more time for the QAs or the developers or even the POs, because when these changes come in, you don't really have time to think about the regression or the dependencies that it could bring, or maybe there's a third party involved now but not before. So it's a call that we as a team have to make, whether we go ahead with the initial one and we create a new story to handle the changes, or we update the current story and we carry on with it. One point that I want to specifically highlight here is sometimes these small changes which I'm talking about, that is accepted by the PO, the developers, and the QA, sometimes we forget, we say yes in the comments, but then we forget actually to update the document, the requirement document. And this one is a big no. It's a big red alert, because what happens is right now you might deliver it, but let's say you found a issue on production. So what the first thing you do is you go back to the requirement to read, okay, what was it? And if that particular thing is not mentioned, you will deny, you will maybe your support team is going to say no, no, it's working to design, but it's not. So I think
Yeah,
in those cases it's also very important that the requirement document have to be always up to date.
it's about keeping everything in sync.
Definitely.
And as I say, as an XPM as well, as I say, taking in changes like that, it's a risk assessment and risk against risk tolerance,
Yeah.
as I say, that collectively have as well. So I agree with that as well. So Michael, any additional thoughts from you on that one?
Well, nothing to add from my side, I think, at this point.
Okay, all right, brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, how do we integrate shift left principles into ETL and BI based testing processes? Okay, who would like to have a think? Start on that one. Artie, do you want to kick off and then Michael can add? Or
Yeah, sure.
okay,
So, well, as I said, shift left is all about being involved as early as possible to bring the quality perspective. And I think for ETL and BI pipelines, most probably what you need to do is you need to understand that the data contracts and the schema validation. Sorry, they are working as expected. So I think you need to define and enforce the schema early if you want to really find issues early as well. Also, testing ETL pipelines early, writing unit tests for the transformation logic that you have from source to destination, testing edge cases and data anomalies that you may have, from your experience. You have already seen that you may have some issues on production, and now you're doing a new feature. So those kinds of test edge cases you could definitely try to automate. And I think automating the CI/CD for data is something which is right now, it's a very general process, no matter where we are going, what we are talking about. um, I would also suggest of involving the users a bit earlier, let's say, because when you involve a business user in defining matrices and models, let's say, it really helps, because they also give a feeling of collaboration with stakeholder. They better understand where you are heading to, or where we are at this moment and whether we are on track or not. Um, and the last one from my side would be documenting everything, and monitoring the source as well, Because if you are just adding data without proper indexing, without alerts on ingestion time and stuff like that, it's going to end up nowhere. So yeah, that's
Okay,
it.
thank you. Any additional thoughts or comments from Michael?
Yeah, I would just add that this testing these systems, I think, must involve as much automation as possible, because it is generally easier to automate verifying big amounts of data for using automated tests rather than manual. And for that purpose, as we already discussed, shift left is just beneficial, because it uh, provides uh, more easy environment to get automation earlier.
Okay.
There's one more point that I forgot to add,
Hmm.
again coming
Okay.
from experience. So whenever whenever we were handling a new feature which was actually changing the data schema, so the developers, they were always pinging the data scientists as well to update the schema, because sometimes we were going to production but then our ETL was not ready because it was missing that field in the new schema. So that collaboration also helped us to also ensure that not only the software but on the data side also, we are following the same process of keeping everybody in the loop from the very start. So that's also one thing that specifically with this case I got to know.
Good advice. Okay. And touching back on automation, from some comments we've just been coming off, I know we covered this off, I think, quite early on, but just maybe an elaboration on this, and maybe to succinct it a little bit. At the beginning, does automation work because there's frequent changes on the client side? So I think maybe can we just summarize maybe the key areas that it would be good to automate at the start for our audience, so that we can then say, obviously, as the system evolves and stabilizes, you can then obviously add additional parts. So Aarti, maybe you can succinctly say what is good to automate from the start.
Definitely, definitely. I would love to share my experience here. So, as I said, when we were on that specific subject, smart teams always choose what to automate and what not to. And the reason is that you don't want to end up putting a lot of maintenance cost instead of gaining time. That is the whole point of
Mhm.
automation. So, in my point of view, what you could start automating is the stable and core functionalities that that are not going to change with every feature that you're going to build in next couple of weeks, let's say. So for me, like core business rules, the APIs, the data validation as well, it's something that you can definitely automate. Also, the high risk or critical flows. Those are the flows like, login, checkout, payment. These are not the flows that any company wants to touch on every sprint, because, it's something that is bringing the revenue, right? Or the users to the platform. So those kinds of flows, definitely you can close your eyes and just go to automate for the for getting the benefit of not executing anything manually. The second, the other things that you could automate is the test pyramid, lowest level unit test and integration test and API test for every feature, no matter what that you're doing. It's something that is going to bring a lot of value, a lot of quicker feedbacks, better quality for the delivery cycle. And a disclaimer for what not to automate, I think, would be the features that are highly dependent on the UI churn.
Yeah.
So if you know that you are working with a feature which may change, maybe might introduce more UI elements, or they might move or maybe remove or maybe add something. It's something that you should not get into automation at the very start. You should try to focus on exploratory testing unless the feature is stable. Normally, a new feature gets stable in 2 to 3 weeks. So after that maybe you can try to automate it again. And when confusion, I always say just do a ROI. If this particular test, if I try to automate it, will it save me more time then the time I will have to invest in maintaining it. If the answer is no, you should not automate it. You should really go ahead with manual testing unless the answer to this question changes to yes. So,
Good
so yeah.
advice. Yeah. Okay. All right. That just about wraps it up. So, high level summary, I'd say to wrap things up, a few key takeaways from this. So, shift left, it's not just about testing early, it's about building quality in from the start. It requires collaboration and not just tools. And start small, measure progress, and share wins with your corresponding team. So, I would really like to thank you again for joining, as well as our speakers today. A big thank you to them. If you'd like to connect or explore this topic further, then feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. And we will follow up by posting the video online, along with individuals' comments and questions. So thank you very much, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
All right.
Bye.